masters of the universe, the Legends of Grayskull podcast.
Legends of Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duke as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go. Get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride. Right now.
Welcome, everybody, to Legends of Grayskull. It is back and better than ever because there's no Dooch. We've got Sean here as the mainstay of the channel. We've got Stephen Bisciotti joining us. I'm Curtis Ackerman, and we are going to talk Mondo Beastman. Sean, it's your show. Anything you want to say to the fans out there before we get rolling?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's awesome that all three of us this week have been able to get this figure in hand. And across the Mondo and Masters community, there's been tons of people already that have been doing photos and showing different ways that they're displaying Beastman and stuff. And basically, Curtis was like, "You're getting yours as in yesterday for me. You're getting yours today, right?" I'm like, "Yeah. We're doing this. We're going to be one of the first ones to get this out of the gate." And I said, okay, let's do it. So I will admit fully, I only had maybe 10 minutes to even get my Beastman out of the box last night, even just look at it and stuff. And Curtis and Steve, I'm sure, have had a little more time with it. So that's awesome that all three of us can come at it with our perspective. So again, thank you for joining us. J-Mac, My Buddy's Customs, thank you. And we'll start there.
Yeah, so basically what happened was, I got mine a couple days ago. I posted pictures of it, and our friend Tomas Rydberg reached out to me and said, "Hey, you guys need to do a review because there's nothing out there, and I'd love to hear some thoughts on it," because he goes, "Mine's coming across the water, and I'd love to hear what people think and stuff." I was like, "Well, let me see what I can put together." So yeah, appreciate you guys being able to make time and get together. And so before we get into, the figure that we've opened and we've looked at, like, what were your guys' thoughts when this was first shown and then also when it was solicited? Like, were you super excited for this one? Is this one that, I know, none of us really have collected every single Mondo they've put out. We've kind of picked and choose which ones we need because they're big guys and they take up a lot of room. So when you guys saw this, we'll start with you, Sean. Like, what was your first thoughts when you saw this Beastman?
My first thought was, this is the Beastman I've waited for my entire life, because
cool.
In my own headcanon, I've always liked the idea of him being a Hulk, not Hulk-esque, but like a hulkier figure, a hulkier, bulkier kind of presence. And I always thought he is more like the he's the muscle for Skeletor out of the traditional, Skeletor, Merman, Beastman. He would be the muscle. And just the idea of somebody like that in the darkness coming after you that's nightmare fuel for me. I was a kid. And so when I saw what Mondo was doing, I'm like, they've read every part of the nightmare that was my mind, imagining that moment. And I've actually been very excited for this figure since the initial photos were released.
Awesome. What about you, Steven?
I was very torn when I saw it. I did not think it looked like a big plush toy to me at first. Beastman is probably my favorite villain. He's a big character for me. So anytime Beastman comes out, I pay attention. And so this was like, this is probably my most anticipated villain. And when I saw him, I was like, I don't know if I like it. I bought it because I know things tend to look better in person a lot of times. And I was like, I'm going to be ticked if this comes and it is a hit. And then I didn't get it. So, I did. I get it. And plus, I kind of had a sneaking hunch that a lot of the pictures they showed, he wasn't posed very well. He's just kind of standing there, and it didn't, so I was very conflicted on this one. I didn't know what I was going to think when I got it and opened up the box.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same boat as you, Steven. Not about the plush aspect of it, because obviously the only fuzzy piece is that like harness part. The rest of it is sculpted hair and stuff. I thought he did look big and menacing, but I also thought the proportions looked really weird. Like it just looked off to me. When I started kind of paring down my Mondo collection for space, my decision was really, hey, I want He-Man and Battle Cat, and then I want Skeletor and, his main, minions, which obviously would include Beastman. So when this came out, it was like, man, I got to get Beastman, because you can't have Skeletor and his minions and not have Beastman. So I ordered it because I knew I had to have him, but I wasn't real impressed or excited about it. That all being said, exactly what you were saying, like as far as the posing, like we know from, talking to our good friend Trevor Williams, and he does the pictures for Mythic Legions, when you're dealing with those prototypes and, a lot of those parts are like 3D printed, glued together, held together with, tape and bubble gum, it's hard to get it in super dynamic posing. And I think more than probably any other Mondo that they've put out, besides maybe Battle Cat, this one really does require some dynamic posing, I think, to make it look the way that he should. So I wasn't sure about it, but that all being said, we get them this week. Let's kind of talk about first impressions. So I know, Sean, you said you opened yours, you only had about 10 minutes, but in that 10 minutes, what are you thinking? You said you were excited. Did he live up to the expectations?
He did, but the one thing that blew my mind about this one, and I almost sound like I'm the one guy in the cabal that was complaining about one of the figures in the last couple of months. The thing that blew my mind was when I opened the box, the smell of like rubber cement. It permeated the basement for like the rest of the night. And that's the first time I've ever had that happen from a Mondo. I don't know why. I guess it's just the plastic itself. The thing is, we had Deluxe He-Man and we had Deluxe Skeletor in the last year. And what blew my mind is this was not built as a deluxe Beastman. It was a timed edition. And the amount of stuff you get in this is basically the same as a deluxe figure, as far as I was concerned. So
And
that
huge
was
and heavy.
Exactly. It's like 7 or 8 pounds in box. I was looking at the shipper and I'm like, oh my God, like that's half the weight of Battle Cat. So, and then on top of that, the amount of hand options that you have with the different gestures you can do, all the little pieces that come along with them. Plus, if you want to go 87 movie, you can do a little bit of that. You also get some, the chalice and stuff. I mean, it's like there's so many things that this figure offers without it being a deluxe, which was surprising. But the thing that got me on top of that was when I pulled the whip out, I had no idea it was going to have wire through there, so it's posable,
awesome, isn't it?
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is great!" Like that was one of my favorite moments. Opening
it's wired, but it also has like a rope type fabric around it, to where it looks like rope, it feels like rope, but then it's articulated. It is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't worked with mine, but yeah, it just right out of the box almost. It was just like this in the box.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I thought it was just going to be a like regular like rope whip, and it wasn't going to have any movement to it. You were just going to have to kind of fake it. But no, it's really cool. So to touch on the one thing that you said as far as the smell, there's basically two things that I've kind of heard on this. And the one is there is a smell when you first open the box. Now for me, it lasted about 30 seconds. I know Steven said his was about the same. Some people said theirs lasted a little bit longer. I'm not sure if it's whatever glue that they adhered the fuzzy parts to the harness with. I'm not sure if it's just because it's such a huge, massive amount of plastic.
I think it's that, actually. I just
Yeah.
smelled it. It's really strong from the fur.
On the harness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So, for me, it only lasted, like 30 seconds and it was gone. But, it is something to be aware of, I guess.
Mhm.
The other thing is, and I'm happy about this. Some people may not be, but I'm happy about this. He is very stiff. He has got very tight joints to the point where you're not going to be able to do a lot of things with this if you don't heat him up. You are going to need to use some heat. He is like, to get weapons in his hand, you're going to need to use heat. To move the joints, you're going to need to use heat, which I would much rather have that than loose joints to where he's falling over. Because like you said, this thing is 8 to 10 pounds. And if he had loose joints, there's no way you'd get this thing to stand. So I would much rather he have tight joints than loose joints. But those are kind of just some, warnings out there for anybody that hasn't got theirs yet or is thinking about buying one. So, Steve, you open up yours. What are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts were, because he comes out in the standard pose and he looks, then again, I'm seeing him. He kind of looks like he looked in the pictures when I didn't like him. So my first thing is I got to get this guy moving and see what he looks like the first thing I do with any pit figure, if it is usually they always come legs straight, knees straight, toes pointing exactly straight. You pull them out of the box. First thing I do is try to twist out his thighs on almost any picture, because that's how normal people stand. Feet at a 45. And that's what I tried to do with him. So I'm like, all right, I got to fix these legs because they look weird. And I couldn't move them. I wasn't strong enough to move them, And I wasn't even sure if there was any thigh swivel there. I was like, holy cow, is this guy like this or what? And so I was like, all right, I got to get heat on this guy and see what I can do with him. And I stripped him right down, pulled his head off, pulled his fuzzy armor off. Needed a lot of heat just to get the head off. And then I set him by a space heater that I have downstairs and just let it blow on him for probably a half hour, 45 minutes while I played video games. Yeah. And then went back to him, and it helped, but it still wasn't enough. I had to take him and still put heat to him from my blow dryer. And when I broke his waist loose and I got his stuff on and I started posing him, I started putting everything on him, he really starts to come to life. He's like, I was like, okay, I get it. I'm glad I bought this. This is fun. And now he's, I'm loving this guy.
Yeah, I was the same as you. Like I opened it up. You pull it out of the package and it looks like the photos that we ordered. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's Beastman, but I wasn't like super excited just because he's got a body that I think in order to look right, he needs to be in a real crouching, kind of ape-like position. And so coming out of the box, he just kind of looked odd. But I did the same thing as you. I tried to move the legs and it was like, nope, this isn't happening. Like they're not moving at all. Like I couldn't get the legs to move back and forth at all. I couldn't get the knees to move. Like nothing would move on this thing. I was able to pop the head off without any heat, but trying to get the other head on, that it was like I had to heat that thing up pretty viciously to get it on. But as soon as I was able to start, getting in and pose and stuff, the one thing that I was super impressed with that I didn't realize is that he has got very well hidden double articulated knees. Normally, I hate double articulated knees because they stick out, like you can see them, and it takes away the realism of the figure. It makes it look like a toy. And they've got his double articulated knee in such a way that it's like there's one joint kind of up top and then another joint down below. So it's hidden by the fur. And once you kind of break those two joints loose and you start getting him in some more, like dynamic type posing, like Steven said, he really comes to life. This thing is just, yeah, I'm super impressed with this. I thought it was going to be one of my least favorite And I would say, other than maybe Trapjaw, I think this is probably second for me. I really loved that Trapjaw figure, but I would say this is probably a solid number 2 right after Trapjaw. So, what about you, Steven? Let's see what kind of posing you got going on there, because I know you probably got something that you worked on.
Oh, right now he's basically pretty close to what you have.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's similar to what you got going on. But
yeah, I like how you have the one leg forward and the one leg back. That's cool. I saw somebody do where they took the whip, had him holding the whip in one hand and then had it wrapped around and him holding it in the other. That was kind of a cool thing.
I saw somebody with it drip that actually looked cool, where it was just hanging straight down, and then he had it coiled up on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know,
and you know what? When I first saw this thing, I was like, why the hell do we need a turkey leg? You know, like that, Mondo could save a few bucks by cutting out some of these accessories, but I'll say this thing's kind of cool. I actually like the turkey leg. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. I don't know why we needed it, but it's definitely going to go in my display case. If he's not holding it, it'll be like at the ground at his feet or something. It's just stupid cool. The goblet's really neat too. I like this goblet. And then, I probably won't ever use the ray gun, the laser gun, but it's neat that they throw that option in there. Like Sean was saying, if you want to, kind of have a 87 movie-esque Beastman, you can throw that little laser on him.
Or give it to someone else.
Yeah. Or give it to someone else. Yeah. So I really didn't have any problems with mine. We were just kind of talking before this, and maybe I'll try to pop this head off real quick and show, because some people have talked about eyes, specifically derpy eyes. And let me try to embiggen myself here. This head, there's one head here that has the big open mouth. All right. So he comes with the first head he's got is kind of slightly open. There's this one, and then there's more of a kind of a cartoony, it's not as Filmation-y or as a vintage toy as the original Mondo heads, but it's kind of in that style. But this one, I've seen a lot of people complaining about the eyes, and it looks like they're off. And some people's maybe worse than others, but like if you look at it real close, it looks like it might be off. I don't know if I can get that to focus. But really what's happening is his cheekbone on the one side is way up high. Like he's making, you can see his mouth is open and his cheekbone is higher here and his eyebrow is down. So he's kind of squinting out of the one eye, and then the other eye is really big. So it looks odd when you look at it, and it almost looks like it's kind of not right, but it's really just because that one eye is so big. So I thought it was off at first, just based on what some other people had said. I looked at it closely. I'm like, yeah, this looks weird. And when you look at it up close, it's like, that does look kind of odd. But I really think it's just because the one eye's squinty and the other one's big. Your mileage may vary. Yours may not be, as good or, whatever.
It's weird. If I look at mine and I want it to look derpy, it can look derpy. And if I want it to look not derpy, I can make it look not derpy.
Yeah, I think if you've got it, it's one of those things where, if you see people complaining about something online and you're looking for it, you're going to see it, But I think if you just put that head on there and put it in your display case and you didn't read anybody's comments on it, you probably would never even notice it. So yeah, that's my take on that. I did.
What do you see, Sean?
I felt like mine might have been a little derpy last night, but again, at 10 minutes, before I went to bed. But the thing is, if you put it on at the right angle, because this eye, the one that's squinting, actually is going more to that side too. Like it's looking in that direction along with that eye. It's like Curtis is saying, because of the squint, you got this impression like, oh, it looks weird. But if you put it at that angle like that, he it looks just fine. And you can
Yeah.
get that a lot of the figures, so it's not like it's a huge problem, in my opinion.
Yeah. The only other thing I had his armbands, which listen, I've had a problem with Beastman armbands since Vintage Line,
Yeah.
where they just slide off all the time.
Yeah.
I had a problem with my vintage figures, and I got a problem with this. And so yeah, it just kept sliding down, and I just pushed it up to the point where it finally stayed. But they were, as I was kind of fiddling with them and trying to articulate them, they just kept like falling off. So just something else that I noticed. But I mean, once you get this thing in a pose and you get it looking the way you want to, it's phenomenal. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah.
I like the little effect that looks like he's broken away from some chains, like he's been chained up somewhere.
Yeah,
He's
on his wrist guards or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how they put the there's like a fur piece underneath those bracers too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's that's the thing about like this one in particular, but even with Skeletor and stuff. When you get these figures in hand, it is like Mondo is looking at the Alcala mini comics, and that's the heart of what they're trying to do with this, and then amping it up with their own Mondo-esqueness on top of that. And for me, being who I am about the line, that's why these are important to me, because of I mean, this literally, like, there's stories with this character just looking at him. Like the chains, like they're talking about, the broken spikes on his chest piece here and stuff. I mean, there's like tons and tons of detail on here that it's like I could spend quite a long time just looking at all the details on this figure and not getting bored of it at all. It's that well done.
I love the way that they do their own spin on these characters. If I know people love classics. I think that if Mondo made these in a 1/12 scale, this would be the perfect Motu line. Being as it's 1/6 scale, it's nice, but you can't really collect it the same way you would do classics, to where you have like everything. If this was 1/12 scale, I think it would be the best Motu line that there is. I just love their designs, and that they take some of these things from the different versions that we've had in the past, and then they put their own spin on it, and then that's what you get. So
I'd be in trouble if they did a 1/6 line of these, because oh my god, like I was talking to Matt about that on the last episode we did, and I'm like, that's probably at least $30 to $35 a pop for a figure. If they would do it, maybe even 40, depending. And I would be so screwed, because I honestly, I don't know if I would even get rid of the Mondos I have if they made the smaller line, because I'd rather have the smaller line, because I can store more
collecting
on
space.
shelf.
Yeah,
The space is opened up at least. But when you see some of these, like last night, I put that on my work desk to go to bed, and I actually had to turn them away from me before I went to bed, because I'm like, I don't want to wake up to that. That's like, holy shit, like right at you, and just that look on his face and stuff, and it's like he's going into berserker mode. And I mean, he really is an imposing figure compared to some of the other ones they've come out with so far.
What else, guys? Any other parts that you were really excited for, or you love about this figure, or anything you don't like about the figure?
Not too much I don't like. I did remove his shin guards.
Okay.
I just like them better without them.
Okay.
I think they're just a little too much. I don't think he needs it.
Can you show yours again? I didn't catch that you didn't have the shin guards on there. Oh yeah, that does look pretty good. Yeah, that might be the way to go. Might have to try that. You did that with Battle Cat too, didn't you? Didn't you take the Battle Cat?
And I don't know if it's because I'm stuck and I can't change, but but for this figure particularly, I think it helps his proportions. In my opinion.
I can see that.
But
because the shin guards do make his legs look a little bit more stubby.
Yeah, stumpy.
Yeah.
And my legs are stumpy enough. I don't need Beastman to have them.
And he didn't have, the original didn't have any sort of
No.
thing down there. It was just leg straight to foot, right? Yeah.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
and I will say this, which nobody will probably ever hear me say this again. I think this is one figure that could have benefited from toe articulation. Because to get him in a crouching, like if I was going to crouch him, and to be able to have those the back foot, you know, with the toe in a running or something, and be able to put the toe down in a 3-point stance or something, I think that would have looked really cool.
Yeah.
I usually hate toe articulation. I think it's a waste most of the time, but on a figure like this, I think it could have been cool.
Well, it's the same thing that we've talked about, like with double articulated joints. There's a lot of figures that it's not necessary on. This is one that I think really benefits from it, so that you can get them in a really good crouching position. Toe kick. I think you're right. I think it could benefit a little bit from that. Another thing that I really liked about this is let me just embiggen myself for a second. The medallion thing, because normally like this is a sculpted part of the harness. So this being on a chain and being separate, I thought was really neat as well. I like that. And the whip is just, we talked about the whip, but man, that surprised me. I was not expecting that at all. So
the whip is amazing. He's sweet, man. Mondo's where it's at.
Yeah, I hope some other toy lines do that same kind of thing with, if you're going to make like an articulated rope thing, whether it's a whip or something else, do it like this. This is a good prototype for it because you've got a very strong wire in there, but then it's got the fabric wrapped around it to where it still looks realistic. It's really cool. So, and then he does come with these little bone things. Yeah, what Sean's got there. Yep. So I wrapped mine. I saw that from the production photos, it had it around his belt. But in order to do it, you have to like put the loop down there and then pull like the skull or the bone through the loop and kind of wrap it around it. And then I think Steven had it from up here, right?
Yeah. Well, I put mine on the chains now. I changed it. So I kind of just because I thought it looked kind of neat.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any one, right way to do it, but they are cool little, just like bonus accessories to have on there to make it look a little bit more menacing.
Yeah.
So,
for me at least, I've only just gotten into collecting Mondo in the last year, and out of the ones that I have, I think Beastman probably is number one for a lot of things. The one thing I wanted to say too is with Trapjaw, I know Curtis and I were both saying in our previous review how that figure was tight. You didn't need the stand, and it was new parts. Those parts were never ever used in any other figure. They've always been going to the typical He-Man buck for the most part, and that was the first time that we've had like the Trapjaw / Manny Faces kind of legs and stuff. And I was really impressed that, okay, if they're going to do something new, it's actually going in a good direction because those pieces are so, they're obviously tight, but they're also durable and everything else. And this is another case of that too, because this is an entirely new figure from the ground up. All of this is brand new sculpt, brand new tooling. And like everybody was saying at the beginning, this is a tight figure. You got to put the heat on it. That's why I didn't even try to do anything with mine before we got on air with this, because I'm just like, this is pretty much what he was when I got him out of the box. I'm going to work with him over the weekend when I have more time. But it actually has me putting faith in the line because the new stuff they're putting in feels so good. Like it makes me comfortable as a collector to go, if they had a Ram Man figure come out and that'll be a bulkier, maybe, like a different body type figure, that makes me go, that's going to be a well done figure. The quality will be there, and the he won't be somebody that just shelf dives left and right, like with loose joints or whatever. So, it's like this actually has me even more excited for what's to come with this line, since the new stuff is really, really working well.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I didn't get in from the beginning of Mondo. I think my first figure that I got was Merman, because that Merman came out, and for anybody who doesn't have that Merman is amazing, great figure. And as soon as I got that, I was like, man, this thing's awesome. I got to go back and get the Skeletor and the He-Man. And I noticed with like the earlier figures, Skeletor, He-Man, Faker, you always needed, well, at least me, like I needed the stance for it, because they were so loose in the legs that you really couldn't get them in a good stance and have them hold it, or at least I couldn't. That's kind of what I was worried about with this guy, because he's so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But no, man, I don't need, like, I put the stand back in the box and put it in the garage. I don't need the stand, because even at this thing being 8 to 10 pounds, he holds a pose.
Mm-hmm. The first ones felt more vinyl than plastic. And this guy feels plastic, and I think Trapjaw did too. And they used to have like I always felt like they were almost a rotocast vinyl in the beginning.
It was softer for sure, yeah.
I'm not saying they're not doing any of that anymore, but with the last couple of figures, and the cats don't feel, the cats are, so yeah, I don't know. They're heading in a great direction, and
like his hands and feet are almost like the hardness of it's almost like porcelain. Like you feel like when I was getting ready to put the weapon into his hand, I was like, I thought if I move this too much, it's just gonna snap, because it's so hard and it feels like almost brittle. But you throw a little heat on it, like you hit it with a hairdryer, heat gun, or whatever, and that just opens right up, and you can do whatever you need to. So yeah, I'm very impressed with this one, with the ones that have been coming out recently. I don't know kind of what changes happened in the manufacturing from when Funko took over, but I mean, since they took over, we've gotten Battle Cat, which was freaking amazing. We got Trapjaw, we got this, we're getting the Panther. Like everything that they've put out since Funko took over, I'm super pleased with. That new Skeletor is amazing. So yeah, I think sky's the limit for this line. The only problem is, where are you going to put it? Because it's so huge.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And also the finance angle of it too. I mean, I actually got kind of sad the other day when I was looking at the original numbers for this line being like 160 a figure. And I'm like, oh, those days are gone, because Orko couldn't even hit 150. They had to go and put more stuff in them to justify the 235 or whatever it is.
But I looked back and I was surprised. This was only 260 for and I think that was the shipped price, and that's for like this huge figure with all these accessories. And so I mean, you're definitely getting your money's worth for it, because I mean, this thing could easily just be a statue and they could charge $500-$600 for it, but you're instead getting an articulated figure. So so I put it at second. I think it's the second best figure that they've put out. Sean, what do you think?
I am putting it at first, because every time I look at this, it's the height, the weight of it. I mean, like I know how much you love Trapjaw, and Trapjaw's a good one, but this one, it's going to be hard for them to top all that this brings to the line, in my opinion.
And Steven, I know you were big on the Battle Cat. Where does this place in the figures that Mondo's put out so far?
I think I still gotta say, if we're putting the cats in the mix, I think I put Battle Cat at first. I just think that thing's amazing. I think it's really hard between this guy and Trapjaw, but I think I would put this guy ahead of Trapjaw. Maybe that's because I'm a big Beastman fan. I love Beastman.
Cool. Well, I think anybody that is a Beastman fan that's got this, that's waiting for it. I know the person that was kind of asking for this review was Tomas. He's a huge Beastman fan. It's like his favorite character.
Might be the biggest Beastman fan.
Yeah. So, Tomas, if you're watching this and you're waiting for yours to come, I think you're going to be very happy with it. I got nothing but positive things to say about this thing. Yeah, it's just amazing. So I really feel like I only need 2 more Mondos in my collection, and I think I could call it quits.
Is one of them Triclops?
One of them is Triclops.
Yeah, I need Triclops.
The other one would be Evelyn. If I got those 2, I think I could be good.
Well, of course, I need Fisto.
That's true. Yeah. And if they put out a Zodak, I would obviously get a Zodak, but I don't feel like I need, like, for my display, I think if I got Triclops and Evelyn, I'd be good.
Knowing Mondo, I'm just going to put this out there, and I have no inside information or anything, but if they did Zodak and they didn't offer a Xanthor bonus head out of that one, because he's literally, all you got to do is pop that head on. Seriously, like, they're missing it.
Especially now that he was in the show.
Like, we got to do this for Curtis, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I would definitely be buying that then, for sure.
So real quick here, I just have a question, because I was talking to someone, I'll throw his name out, Michael Casper. He's also a big Masters of the Universe.
He was a little nervous about this one. Yeah,
he's a mini comic guy more than anything, and he and I were bonding over that. And when they announced this and showed the photos, and he was standing next to Skeletor or next to He-Man or something, the minute he saw that, he goes, "I'm never buying this because of the scale." And I personally love that he is a bigger figure. But he was like, it's not, they're all uniform. They should all be the same height. And I was like, you're passing this up just because of this one thing. And like you said, the posing could make the difference. He could have him more like he's, a lumbering character in that way or whatever. Personally, I'm like, man, did you miss out?
He ended up pulling the trigger. He said it the other day I guess he must have been at PowerCon or something. He said that he was looking at it in a display case next to Trevor, and Trevor said something like, "You got to get it." And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And so he ordered it. But I think, like, even this week when he was talking about it, I think he sounded like he's not real sure or happy about having ordered it. I think once he gets it in hand, he's going to love it. Like, this thing is really cool. It's a really awesome one. So,
I mean, each figure they bring out, it is really, like, I got into Mondo because there was finally a deluxe He-Man that looked like I wanted He-Man to look in Mondo.
Yep.
And that to me was the pinnacle. And ever since then, everything else, I'm like, oh my God, He-Man who? Like,
one hit after another.
It's like that meme with the guy walking with his girlfriend, and like Beastman's the one making me look behind me now, and Skeletor's the one like, nah, like.
Yeah.
Did either of you guys order the Orko?
I did not.
I wanted to, but it hit me at a time when I didn't have the funds, so I passed. But that's what I would like to have. Maybe someday I'll find a trade or something with somebody.
I was kind of hoping that they would do a little bit more of their own take on it. Like, I really liked the Revolution and Revelation, the white Orko. I thought that was really cool. I was hoping Mondo would do more of that, because it felt like the big one, the big Orko, felt really 2000X-y. And then the smaller one was very Filmation, of course. It just didn't, normally they do like their own thing, and it just didn't feel like that for me. So I passed on that one. But
honestly, them doing the Revelation Skeletor still has me going, what else do they want to do with that? Are they going to go back to it? Because I didn't care about the Skeletor, but there's a part of me like, Mattel has yet to make a He-Man figure using what they're doing right now that looks like the cartoon for me. So if they came out with a He-Man looking like that, and it looks legit like Powerhouse draws them, that would be a hard one too for me to pass up. And even Revelation, if they went with the white Orko, like you're talking about, like I fell in love with Orko because of Revelation. I hated him for 40 years, and now I love Orko because of that show. And that would be the version I'd want on my shelf too. So if they went there,
I feel that way about Evelyn, and not really the way that she was drawn, but more just how her story went in Revolution, especially. So, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much a review, but any other closing thoughts? We'll hit you up first, Steven. Anything else that you'd want these people to know if they're either thinking about hitting one up on eBay or at a toy show, or if they're just waiting for theirs to come in? Anything that they should know?
Just be ready to get a hair dryer or something out to get this guy heat and get him posed, and you'll enjoy him. So
Cool. Sounds good. What about you, Sean?
Oh, like I said, I mean, I'm not the biggest person to pose stuff. I'm just happy to have it on my shelf typically, but this figure tells tons of stories just with the amount of details on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too many other lines. Mythic Legions would be one of them, though, where you look at these figures and you could basically get a history of this character just from the look of it. And I mean, for me, like I said, this is the one to beat right now out of the figures, not the cats, but the figures themselves, because of all this stuff that they put into this figure. And I mean, if you love this figure and if you already are collecting Mondo, this to me is a must-have. There's no way around it. And if you're thinking about it, if this is your first Mondo, you won't be disappointed either if you want to go out and get it.
Yeah, I would agree. This is a must-have. I would say he does need a really good pose. Like, you need to get him articulated, get a pose. If you're somebody that's not good at posing, we're doing this show right now live on Leap Day. It's February 29th. In a couple weeks, we're going to be at MesquiCon. If you come to MesquiCon, I will make Steven put it in a cool pose for you. Okay, he's going to be at the same table with me. I'll say, hey, Steven, bring your hair dryer. Let's get if somebody brings up a Beastman to the table, Steven will put him in a good pose for you, and then you can take it home and throw it right in your display case.
the truth is that if anybody hands me a toy, I will play with it.
As you should. That's how
But still come to MesquiCon because it's going to be fun.
Yeah, do come.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you joining. Appreciate everybody that's watching live. Anybody that's watching on replay. And Tomas, you're going to be very happy. So you want to sign us off? I don't know what your normal sign off is, and then I'll hit the outro. Sean? Okay, that works.
Oh, come on.
Hey, you know what?